Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Time Talks with Jeanie. As you may notice in the background, my picture is pretty much ruins, which should give you an idea of maybe what we're going to talk about. But if not, here we go. Let's talk about that wonderful Ides of March, otherwise known as March the 15th. Now, why did it become the Ides of March, you say? Well, that's partly because of good old Julius Caesar. Now, he was born in Rome on 12th or maybe the 13th, no one truly knows, of July in 100 BC into the prestigious Julian clan. Now, they were closely connected with the faction of Roman politics, so Caesar himself began progressing within the Roman political system and became a successor in a lot of different ways from 69, 65, 62. Everybody knows that because it's BC, we're now counting down. So that's why it's a little confusing. Sorry, I don't want you to hurt yourselves thinking about math because it hurts me sometimes too. So in 60 to 61 BC, he served as a governor of the Republic province of Spain. Then he came back to Rome in the year of 60 BC, made a pact with Pompey and Crassus, who helped him to get elected as the consul in 59 BC. Now, the following year, he was appointed governor of Roman Gaul, where he stayed for 8 years, adding the whole of modern France and Belgium to the Roman Empire and making Rome safe from the possibility of Gallic invasions. He made 2 expeditions to Britain in 55 BC and 54 BC. However, Caesar then returned to Italy, disregarding the authority of the Senate and famously crossing the Rubicon River without disbanding his army. Bad, 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 Julius Caesar. In the ensuing civil war, Caesar defeated the Republican forces. Pompey, their leader, fled to Egypt, where he was assassinated. Caesar followed him and became romantically involved with the Egyptian queen Cleopatra. Now, if anyone knows history, you know who Cleopatra actually ended up with, and it wasn't Caesar, and we'll tell you why. Because Caesar was now master of Rome and made himself consul and dictator. He used his power to carry out much needed reform, relieving debt, enlarging the Senate, building the Forum Ilium, and revisiting the calendar. Revising, not revisiting, revising the calendar. Dictatorship was always regarded a temporary position, but in 44 BC, Caesar took it for life. His success and ambition alienated strongly Republican senators. A group of these, led by Cassius and Brutus, assassinated Caesar on the Ides, the 15th of March, 44 BC. This sparked the final round of civil wars that ended the Republic and brought about the elevation of Caesar's great-nephew and designated heir, Octavian, as Augusta, the first emperor of the Roman Empire. Now, while these senates were coming after him, the whole Senate chamber basically went after him, and they were being led by Brutus and a fellow conspirator. And then he tried to defend himself. You know, Julius Caesar, he wasn't going to go down without a fight. Tried to defend himself. Unfortunately, he saw Brutus with a knife, and that's where we get the famous line, "Et tu, Brute." And then Caesar just gave up the struggle and was stabbed to death, as the story goes. You know, unless you were there, you can't, 100%. Because we know history is always written by the victors. But the other thing I want to jump into from Julius Caesar, I wanted to give you a little bit of background about the Ides of March, about Julius Caesar, because March the 15th of 1767 is the birthday of Andrew Jackson. He was the 7th U.S. president, born in a log cabin in Waxhaw, South Carolina, a little bitty small area right in the middle of the border between North Carolina and South Carolina. So, as a boy, he volunteered to serve in the American Revolution. Captured by the British, he refused an order to clean an officer's boots and was slashed by his sword. Jackson later gained fame as a hero during the War of 1812. It was the last battle of the War of 1812, the Battle of New Orleans, which why we all know when we go to New Orleans, the Jackson Square has his statue because he, along with the pirates, the slaves, the privateers, all defended New Orleans against the British invasion, not the Beatles. Now, in politics, he helped form the New Democratic Party. Yes, Jackson was the first Democrat. Many people don't realize that the values of the Democrats and the Republicans have kind of switched over the years. But he's also the reason the Democratic Party has the donkey as their mascot. So we may talk about that in later time talks, but it's really interesting because that's when political cartoons started taking off, was during this early years of the 1800s. Now, he became the first president that was from an impoverished background to be elected as president, serving from 1829 to 1837. It is said that he was illiterate and his wife helped teach him to read. But as we all know, if you want to find out more about Andrew Jackson, if you're here in the Nashville area, Tennessee, you can hop on down to his home of the Hermitage and find out more because they have all kinds of wonderful education education workshops. Sorry, for some reason I couldn't come up with that word. But you can find out a lot about him at the Hermitage and find out a lot about his family. But for this time talks, we just wanted to talk a little bit about the Ides of March, what happened on the Ides of March, which is March 15th. 44 BC was the death day of Julius Caesar, and March 15th, 1767 was the birthday of Andrew Jackson. So I hope everyone has enjoyed this month's Time Talks with Jeanie. So until next time, I am Poe out.